Let's talk about how to pass PwC's video interview in 2022. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English here with our most hotly anticipated video for 2022 so far. You guys have been asking for us to shoot a new PwC video ever since we took it down, and just in case you're watching this from the PwC legal team, all the information that we're presenting here in this video is freely available on the internet. And this is based on things that we've accumulated from Glassdoor, from Student Room, and from Wikijob. So no need to send us a cease and desist letter. So today we're going to talk about PwC's video interview and how to pass it in 2022. And just like all the past the interview videos that are going to be coming out this year, you can now buy our research note and as well as all the templates and guides that you're going to need to pass this interview down in the description below in the PwC Pass the Video Interview Pack. The BlackRock pack, which we released last week, has gone down really well, and it has scripts, template, a 60-minute crash course, and also this research note that I'm going to be going through, so you have exactly what you need to get prepared for your upcoming PwC video interview. Guys, if you like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and drop us a comment down below and let us know what video you'd like us to put out next. So let's get into it. Let's start off with 5 fast facts about PwC. They are a world-leading professional services firm, and they are the biggest professional services firm in the UK with over £4 billion in revenue, a significant margin over their closest competitor. Fact number 2, they are one of the largest employers of graduates in the UK, and they have consistently been a Times Top 100 company ever since it came about, ranking in the top 10. Fact number 3, PricewaterhouseCoopers was formed based upon a merger on the 1st of July 1998. Fact number 4, PwC aims to be carbon emissions net zero by 2030. Fact number 5, PwC has 5 core values: act with integrity, make a difference, care, work together, and reimagine the possible. So let's move on to the interview format. What can you expect? Well, this really depends on where you're at. It could be a telephone interview for 30 minutes, but predominantly most of the interviews are still carried out as a higher view interview, which is a video interview which contains 10 questions. 6 of those questions are actually ones you have to respond to. 1 of those questions is a case study, and the other 3 are just general filler videos. So what we're going to do is that we're going to take you through different things that you can expect in the PwC application process that we've actually seen with our clients. So you can expect quite a lot of online testing. One thing to really be aware of is that there is going to be a significant amount of game-based testing, very similar to like Arctic Fox style games. If you don't know what these are, then I recommend that you find an online test provider that does specifically provide game-based testing. It's not really something that you can just read about or just do. They are testing for very specific skills. A lot of it is to do with risk aversion, risk awareness. Definitely, if you can find a provider that does that, then make sure you go and pay for a package. It's well worth doing. You don't really want to be surprised. Afterwards, after you've been through a series of testing and video interview, you can expect to go on to an assessment center, which is going to be a group discussion, a written exercise, and also a partner interview, along with potentially some other exercises. What we're really going to be concentrating on today is, of course, the video interview. We're going to go through some likely questions that you can expect to get. We're also going to talk about how to answer other styles of questions, in particularly situational judgment test type questions, a framework to think about, and also presenting about a case study, how to do that presentation. Just again, if you're wondering, well, where is all this stuff? What if I don't want to sit there and write notes? Make sure you check out the PwC Pass the Interview Pack, which is down in the link in the description below. And finally, we're going to finish off by dealing with some other questions that we came about in our research through websites like Glassdoor, Wikijob, Student Rooms, and just ways to think about how to answer those questions. Okay, so let's move on to most common questions. So what can you expect? Almost certainly, and this is really the case for any company, not just for PwC, you can always expect to be asked, why PwC, why this role? And then for PwC in particular, you can expect some form of situational judgment test style questions, which are basically scenario-based questions where you're put into a particular situation at work and you're being asked how you'd be expected to respond to this, and some form of short case study that you'll have to work through and then give a presentation about. How much time do you have? So the timings tend to be 2 minutes to think and 3 minutes to respond. If you're wondering how long that is script-wise, you should aim for roughly about 100 words per minute. What I tend to find is that candidates that talk at 125 words per minute or more will get a bit gaspy, they'll be speaking a bit too quickly, they'll easily lose their train of thought, they'll kind of slip off and then get very anxious because you can't repeat your answer to that question. So if you're going to answer for 3 minutes, think 300 words. 2 minutes, think 200 words. And an important thing to think about with scripts, and you can find this in the Pass the Interview pack, which is in the description below, is make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to move away from your script, to move from a script to bullet points to trying to refer it with some type of fluency. And generally in terms of repetitions for each question, I would say 2 rounds of 3 repetitions, and it's very useful to do something like this. So to record yourself, to watch yourself back, to really listen and think about how you would answer that question. So let's start off with question number 1. Why do you want to work for PwC? Now, if you've got 3 minutes to respond to this, you really want to think about getting together like maybe 5 to 7 key facts. This could be from their annual report, which is absolutely fantastic. It's all online. There's plenty of facts and statistics. Try not to base it all around financials or all around revenue. Maybe something to do with gender equality. Maybe it's something to do with diversity, charity work, corporate social responsibility. But think about being varied, think about being specific, and also think about something which resonates with you personally. What you don't want to do when you're answering a why do you want to work for this company question is just reel off a series of facts, which is almost like a shopping list. What happens is this basically just feels unemotional. It doesn't feel particularly confident. It also doesn't really make you sound like this is something you really want to do. You're just kind of going through the motions, even though these facts are quite specific. So 5 to 7 key facts, and just think, you know, PwC earn over £4 billion. I'm really excited to work for a professional services company which consistently outperforms its competitors, and so on and so forth. So think, this is the fact, this is why it's cool, this is why it's resonates with me, this is why this is something that is meaningful. Try and inject your own personality into what you want to say. Question number 2, why do you want to do this role? Now this really depends. So this could be audit, tax, consulting, deals, and then all the subcategories which fall below those 4 broad divisions which PwC operates. So number 1, do your research. Make sure you read the job description. You may find that the job description for the role that you want to do specifically at PwC is not particularly in depth. So use some other websites, use prospects, go and look for job descriptions at other companies with the same job role. Just go and find out about what would you do in your 9 to 5, what are the 5 key skills you'd expect it to have, what are the qualifications that you would need, what is the type of person that you would need to become. Would you need to be analytical? Would you need to be really great with people, good at solving complex problems? Just try to think about those things, and then you want to split the answer to this into 2 parts. The first part is going to be, what would you do? So if the question is, why do you want to be an auditor? The first part of the question is, well, what does an auditor do? 9 to 5, who do they speak to? What are you going to study? What type of work that you'd have to do? And the second part of that question is going to be all about, what type of person are you that makes you relevant for doing this job? So Where can you demonstrate you have the skills, or you have the analytical mindset, or you're good with Excel, or you've studied accounting and finance, whatever that may be. You're trying to make it sound like, well, look, this role was made for me. I'm going to go to space because I'm already an astronaut and I've already been to the International Space Station. This sounds very trite and very silly to say these things out loud, but you would be surprised how often, whenever we do individual sessions with clients or we do other forms of work, that somebody will give experience which is in no way related to the job description. So by using that job description and really knowing what the company is looking for, you can make a very specific answer to why you want to do this job and what specifically motivates you. Now, the third thing we're going to look at is that we know that there will be a series of situational judgment test style questions. Now, we completely understand that what the reason why PwC asked us to take us down our video for 2021 is that we revealed proprietary information about those questions, to which we apologise to them, as the PwC Pass the Interview video was basically the first video we'd ever done, and this isn't something that we wanted to do, and we pride ourselves on really operating with integrity and trying to think about how to answer these questions, or a useful way to think about them, rather than relating the specific questions themselves in a way to allow people to cheat, because we don't actually think that that's the best thing to do. So what I want to offer to you is some things to think about and a framework to use when trying to answer situational judgment test style questions. So first of all, what are these questions like? It's basically a situation at work. So you come into work and you're managing a team. Jane has been late 3 consecutive days in a row when you've already warned her not to be late. When she comes in, she is dismissive and just sits down and gets straight on with her work, and she doesn't even acknowledge that she's late. What do you do? So this is an example of an SJT style question where we're having to resolve a conflict, have some leadership skills, and also demonstrate some professional ethics and boundaries, right? So what we would then do is engage in what I like to call my 6-step system for answering SJT style questions. This is a really useful system to use. It's contained in our research note, and I find that these work really well for all different types of SJT questions. So number 1, what is the problem? What specifically is the problem? So in this example with Jane, well, there are 2 problems. Number 1, she's late when she's been warned that she hasn't been. And also number 2, it's bad for morale. So we all know, we've all had, somebody who's consistently late or doesn't really pitch up and do the amount of work that they need to do for the group, and they just kind of bring everybody down a little bit. So there are 2 problems outlined in this. Number 2, what is the result that I need to achieve? Well, in this particular case, the result that I need to achieve is either to get Jane to turn up on time, or potentially to get Jane to leave the team. Just say, look, your conduct is unacceptable. So it's just thinking like, well, what's the end goal? What's the outcome that I'm seeking to achieve in this particular situation? Number 3, who are the parties that are involved? Well, there's me, I'm the manager. There's also Jane, who is the employee. It could be other members of the team who are nameless, and also my own manager if I am unsure how to deal with this particular situation, which is a common theme that arises in SJT style questions. You could say, well, I do this, this, and this, and if that didn't work, well, I'd tell my manager, or I'd ask for help. I wouldn't just try and fix it myself, because also I'm a graduate and I'm learning about what's the best thing to do and how can I deal with this situation. Number 4, what is best for the client? Well, what's best for the client is that Jane is on time, because otherwise we're going to start falling behind on the project. We're not going to be able to deliver on our deadline, and also it looks unprofessional. We're being paid a lot of money by a large client to carry out an audit, and there's this member of staff who is perennially late and is not really doing the work that they're meant to be doing. Number 5, do I have all the information I need? So now we start to develop the problem out a little bit more and think about what we do. Well, if I had somebody who was late on a consistent basis, which I have done over the years as I've run and grown different businesses, I'd say, well, look, please don't be late. We start work at 9. It's really important that you're here at 9. And then they're late again, or for a 3rd time during the week, and I would take them to one side, because I don't want to name and shame people in front of everybody else. I really believe in a culture of respect rather than a culture of fear. So I'd say, Jane, is something wrong? We've spoken about this before. I said to you about not being late. This is the 3rd time this week that you're late. Now, if there's something wrong and there's any way that I can help you, then I'd love to know about it. Why do we do this? Jane could be having an awful week. She could have something going on in her personal life. She could be struggling with something, whatever. She could have, her car could have broken down and she can't get to the station. But until I have all the facts, it's not particularly helpful, because maybe before Jane has been an exceptional professional and colleague. She's really carried out some great work for me and other managers that she worked for. So is her behaviour characteristic or uncharacteristic? She may well have a problem, she might not have a problem, in which case it's more about establishing some form of boundaries and potentially saying, look, Jane, I understand what you just said, but I don't really think that's the reason for you to be late. She might say, I keep missing my train, to which the response would be, get an earlier train then, get in earlier. That's all you need to do. I mean, we're professionals. This isn't, we're not at school anymore. You're just going to have to leave a little bit earlier. Or she could turn around and give something, which is serious and also personal, which is why it's important to speak to her one-to-one and be like, okay, that's absolutely fine. Now that I know that, how can we help you? How can I adjust? And also in both situations, I might be presented with something. I'm like, I don't really know how to deal with this. I'm not sure how to escalate this procedure, whether it be to give a written warning, whether it be to give her a little bit of slack and just say, hey, do you know what? Right now, if you can get in for 10, that's great. Just work a little bit later. Because Jane could have a serious problem and she might say, look, can you just cut me a bit of slack? I'll make sure I make up the hours later on during the day. I'm just having a difficult time at the minute and I don't really want to tell anyone about it because it's a personal issue. So I might escalate this to my manager or to human resources or whoever the person involved that has a little bit more information with me about what I need to do. And number 6, how can I deliver maximum value? So how can I deliver maximum value to the client, to the team, and also to Jane, most importantly? So what I might do is just, I'll try and deliver maximum value to Jane by being helpful as a manager, but also boundaried. To the team, where I might say like, look, because they might turn around and go like, how comes Jane's coming in at 10? We get in at 9. And I say, look, it's something that we've already discussed. I'm fully aware of the situation. And she also stays an hour later than everybody else. But there is a good reason for it, which I cannot discuss. Yeah, and also to the client, just making sure that we're staying on track, we're keeping on time, and we're going to meet the project deadline. So that's a great 6 steps to think about, which is namely, what is the problem? What is the result I need to achieve? Who are the parties involved? What is the best for the client? Do I have all the information I need? And how can I deliver maximum value? Great way to think about SJT style questions, particularly if you're presented with the question and you've got that 2 minutes to prepare, you can run through those 6 steps. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is how to give presentations. Now, a common report that was given was that you'd be given a mini case study and then you'd have to present about that case study. So how do we deal with this in a very general way? And I want to give you with some form of framework. A couple of things to think about with case studies is, first of all, be really clear on what the problem is and what the solution is that you're looking towards. Make sure that you've got your numbers straight. All professional services, finance and banking related companies are really hot on the numbers and hot on the data, on the facts. So make sure that you have a calculator, that you've got all of your numbers together for whatever you're going to do. I always recommend just having a piece of paper that you can just doodle some rough notes on. It seems very silly to say that, and I realise maybe because I'm a bit older, I'm a bit more old school, but I love to write stuff down. I know that many young people today will just write stuff in their phone, and then they won't actually make notes as they're going through stuff. But having a physical page of notes is really very useful, particularly if you have to sit there and write a report or give a presentation. And also make sure that you give yourself enough time to read and also to respond. And if you're wondering about timings, I always say 1/3 of your time to read and 2/3 of your time to respond. Why? Because sometimes some people get caught up in reading. Sometimes some people get caught up in writing, so they don't actually read and make sure they're fully aware. So you just set a little timer on your phone. Say you had 15 minutes, you take 5 minutes to read and 10 minutes to respond. So next, what's a really good way to think about presentations? Again, this is all contained within the PwC Pass the Interview pack down in the description below. But there is a 7-step structure that I like to take clients through when thinking about this or any other presentation, because you'll get a couple of minutes to make this, which is quite a long time. So you want to make sure that you have some sort of structure that you can stick to so that you're able to get through everything, not procrastinate on any one particular point, and also make sure your answer is comprehensive and as detailed as possible. So first of all, your beginning should be about 10%. This is where, number one, you introduce yourself and your subject. What are you talking about? Who are you? Hi, my name's Mike. Today I'm going to be talking about the financials for McDonald's. And number two, give a 15-word summary of your presentation. Today I'm going to talk about why McDonald's has had such a bad Q4 in 2021, right? Why the 15-word summary? This is a really useful thing to think about because it means we don't deviate too far from the subject, either when we're writing out our notes or when we're presenting on that subject matter. It lets our audience know very quickly what it is that we're going to talk about and the substance of that. And that's so important. Particularly, you will well know if you've sat through a lecture which is particularly boring, or listen to someone talk and they go, where is this going? How long is this going to be for? So the 15-word summary is key. This 15-word summary is key. The middle, the body of your presentation should make up 75%. Why am I giving these numbers? So you know roughly how to apportion your time. This is where you outline the problem, you set the context, and you present each section. So what's the problem that I'm trying to solve? McDonald's had a terrible Q4 because their Big Macs were found to have horse meat in. They weren't. This is a fictitious example, okay? Outline the context. This came out in the general news after an investigation by the American FDA, Food and Drug Administration. And then you present each section. So there are 3 means or 2 things depending on the timing that you have. And then you would present on each section or each essential idea, each question that you're being asked in the case study. Finally, your conclusions should make up about 15%. Why so much, you ask? Well, because you need to give a conclusion, which is a summary of what you've just spoken about. You may present conflicting opinions or different objective opinions for your audience or your client to take away with them, and also just, say that you'll be happy to take any questions. This might not be so necessary for a video presentation, but also it's kind of a cool way to end up, because that's something you do normally. If I was standing in front of you as a client and giving a presentation, I'd then say, thank you so much for listening, be happy to take any questions. Done. Some things to think about in presentations, which is make sure you have an outline and a 15-word summary. This is going to help you to keep on track. Also, write out your key points first and find any data that you need to support them. Data is so crucial. Without data, it's just an opinion. It's just subjectivity. Right, the data provides some element of believability. Whether that data be right or wrong is really a subject for another discussion. But if we present that data with it and we say, 27% of women polled found that this particular guy was a bit sleazy, as opposed to women find him a bit sleazy. One sounds more believable than the other, even though we haven't sourced the data. Some other things to think about is try and aim for a page of notes, because bearing in mind for the case study, you're going to have to solve a problem, write an answer, and then present straight away, which a lot of people find quite stressful. So if you can have a page of notes, which you can basically read by just looking down and looking back up again whenever you pause, that's incredibly useful, which generally means writing less is more. You might want to find the time to have a first page of notes and then rewrite it out a little bit bigger, so that when you're presenting, you're able to present that with some form of flow. Try to maintain eye contact, smile, and speak slowly. And 2 important things to think about: confidence over competence and simple over complete. What does that mean? Just come across like you know what you're talking about. You don't have to talk about everything, and keep your answer as simple as possible instead of trying to think, well, what are all the things that I could say? This is a really common problem that candidates have with presentations. They basically present about all the different things that they could say and then find that they've completely run out of time. They were meant to answer 3 questions and they only answered 1. So that's some things to think about for the most common questions. What I want to do in the time that we have remaining is just quickly run through some other questions that came up in our research and give you some ideas or things to think about with them. So other questions that came up was, tell us about yourself. This is a personal introduction. So who are you? What are you doing right now? What have you done before? What do you want to do? Work experience, extracurricular activities, and skills. Just going through that in that order. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Strengths, think about the job description. What are a couple of key strengths, no more than 3 that are required, or even 1, and a weakness, and I covered this in a video a couple of weeks ago. What you want to think about of a weakness is just something that's not completely compromising. So you want to think about something that's not completely compromising, like I get angry and smash stuff up, or I'm always late. But also something that's believable, where you've learnt a lesson. It might be sometimes you didn't have a great attention to detail, or you might have been disorganized, and you can really clearly demonstrate that you've learnt from this, what have you done, and why is it better now, and turn a weakness into a lesson and a life skill. Describe a problem you have had in the past and how you solved it. This is a basic competency question. Try to think about picking something from your work, if you have work experience, if not from voluntary or extracurricular experience. And also, that's a problem that's reasonably complex. Oftentimes when I hear a candidate give an answer, they'll give a very simple problem, which is like, the bus was late, so I got the next bus. And it's like, well, it's not really a problem, is it? That's just life. So it could be, we organised an event and we needed to find some sponsors, or we were working in a team and a member dropped out. Something that caused adversity, some form of stress or friction, is a really good way to think about a problem that was difficult to overcome. So someone was like, at the time you happened, it was like, oh, gonna have to think about this and how we're going to solve it. How do you deal with criticism? This is a really good one. PwC is one of the world's best professional services companies and offers world-class training. You can expect a significant amount of constructive criticism, of corrections to your work, of improvements, things that can be different, maybe you could do it faster, and that's something that you're going to have to take on with good humour. So what you want to think about is, well, I'm happy to take on board feedback, to go away, to learn how to do things better, to come back and to improve that process. That's something we've all been through, as we've had to sit there and learn about how to do things better, and that's definitely something that you can clearly demonstrate, at least from your university, and at best from work experience, learning how to do stuff on the job, being taught and trained how to do stuff. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Classic question. The answer is always still here as a manager, doing something cool, running some clients, running a team, just engage in the process. And if you can, do some research about the career trajectory and where you can expect to be in 5 years, which at the PwC is probably as a manager. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been looking forward to shooting this for absolutely ages. Before you go, make sure that you subscribe to the channel for more videos, like and comment on this video. Let us know what you'd like to hear next, and support us by buying the Pass the PwC interview pack down in the description below. Good luck, let us know how you get on, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.